we're going to be discussing. So, Kolade, I'm coming. I'm outside. First time I have to be in a different spot. Oh, God, boil. The boil of pimples. Today we have something important to discuss. Let me take my time and have this discussion here in my corridor. This is a live video. Hopefully, certain people will join me online. I don't have to go crazy about this discussion today, but I think it's important we talk about it. It is apparent that many couples that are in Nigeria, the moment they travel out of the country, we have heard stories and stories and stories of them divorcing the moment they leave Nigeria. And that's my concern. That's what I'm discussing about today. Now, the reason why I know this is simply because the experience, the news we hear about, and besides, if you follow an individual online called Dada Freeze, you would be aware of this situation because a lot of people come to his show, and those who travel to Canada, Australia, most of all these foreign countries, United States, United Kingdom, we have these stories going over and over again of couples separating, and I'll be liking to debunk what are my own observations, what are my own hypotheses. I probably could be wrong in some of my delegations, but I think that I have a couple of understanding, and this is simply so that every other couples, young couples who are planning to travel out of the country will be able to give themselves those guidelines. And you would say that if I don't have those experiences, should I be talking about it? You probably might be right. You could be right. But I think I have certain things that I can share with you that probably would help you out. And let us even at least relate together. Unfortunately, at the time that I'm on live right now, people are not joining me on live. Most people are not around, or probably the signal has not gone to most of my fans or my audience to join me online. So one person actually just joined me right now, and I've made it clear what I'll be discussing about. So I will just continue with it. Hopefully I post it out and a lot of people will be able to look into it later, join, and we all have the discussion. Specifically, this has happened to many people. We've heard this over and over countless of times. People talk about traveling out of the country and then they start having breakups in their marriages. And in Nigeria, it's kind of difficult for people to have this experience. Yo, Skep3, welcome. Thanks for joining me on today's episode. So I'm having a discussion actually regarding why do couples move out of the country and the moment they travel out, they separate. And I know this is not actually just affecting only Nigerians. This happens to most other countries. Maybe you call it third world countries. The moment they go to the first world country, they always have issues. Minale Strauss. Wow, you guys have some kind of strong name that is very difficult for an average person to call. And I'm part of the average. And so I'm going to be making a lot of mistakes. But regardless, I identify you, I acknowledge you all for joining me. So I have a couple of hypotheses, and I would have loved this to be a discussion if people can also share their own insights. And I probably will be taking your point and we can relate and discuss about it. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, and share. This is the only way we can talk about this and make it move forward. Oh, long distance relationships don't work because people don't love each other as much. long distance relationship, I actually agree with that, because when you have no idea of coming close to your partner or to your spouse, sometimes that energy of love fades away, and then you're connecting to another person, as long as you're not the only one existing on earth. So you are most times correct about that. But on this particular subject, I am talking on most of our couples leaving the country and moving to diasporas. And after they move to diasporas, despite the fact they are together, they separate at the long run. So I'm trying to find what are the reasons, what are the things that happened. And I want to use this also as an opportunity for me to at least grasp what is actually going on. Maybe I'm trying to travel out of the country, and if I do, and I move my family along with me, probably my wife, who has always been faithful, who we've always enjoyed our relationship, who we've always find a way to work even through the hard times and make things work among ourselves. Probably she's going to come up with such thoughts also. Or I will just wake up and I'm going to see one fine babe and I say, I want to leave my family. The whole girls I've been seeing in this life in my country, and they are not enough. Now I just get to a particular country. What's the mentality? Because for me, I think, is it the economic crisis? Is it because people find themselves with individuals that are like aliens, that are new to them, and they feel like these are foreigners? Because I think in a sense, it's a short-term thinking. Okay, Minale Strauss. Minale Strauss. Am I correct? Am I correct? Let me know if I'm correct with the way I called your name. Minale Strauss, yeah. So what I think is the issue is that a lot of people, when they go out of the country, they see others, and those people tend to be foreigners to them. And one beautiful thing, or will I look at it as a beautiful thing, is that we easily admire people. Okay, I was correct calling your name. Yeah. I've not yet they've not yet given me the earning part of it. For me to get your name, you I would have asked you to, what do you call it? They call it join to pay something and something like that. I don't know, earning stuff and all of that, super chat or whatever. So for me to have called your name correctly, you would have probably sent some dollars. But I'm not about the money. I'm just about having the conversation with you. And I'm trying to learn something here while I'm trying to have conversation. It's probably something in my mind that I'm also thinking about. And I think that it's important we share it all together. So what do you think is actually the idea behind it? I think people actually admire people a lot. And so when you find yourself in a foreign land, you see people and you assume you've seen Savior. And this trickled down to something that I call tradition. And I don't know, most times when I talk about traditions of an African, a lot of people have different perspective about it. Maybe they think I'm actually talking about us going back to the old ways that we live our life. Or maybe they have kind of sentiment that is different. You're going to, okay, all right, take it. Yeah, thank you. So I'm saying that when we see people for the first time, or probably we admire certain things that we can get, we actually gravitate towards those things. Most of the times, the things that God has bestowed upon us or God has given us for free, we do not admire those things. The moment we find ourselves in situations where we see something foreign, something we desire, and we can't get those things, then we gravitate towards those things. So I'm thinking, am I correct with that perspective? Thinking that maybe the major reason why a lot of people separate from their spouse and go after other people is basically because they are thinking that they found someone very unique and better than who they used to have before. And most likely they will be wrong. Most likely they will be wrong. Am I right with my perspective? Is there any other reasons to it? Mr. Skep said something earlier. I said long distance relationship, that is if you're far from your spouse. But this time around, if you're in with your spouse in the same country and you guys move out of the country, what are the things that actually drive their attention towards other people? And having the sentiment that these other people are going to choose them and treat them better than the person who they've been struggling with. Is it because they kind of have the mind of betrayal in them? Is that what humans actually represent? Now I have to go inside my room. I don't know what. We have nets over here. So what are the reasons? I have other hypotheses that I think about when I talk about this subject. And part of it is maybe because I'm a traditional kind of person. I see things from a traditional and cultural perspective. I always believe this. And I'm going to analyze something. You might agree with me, you might not agree. And if you disagree, you can let me know and tell me your reasons. And if I'm wrong, I would acknowledge I'm wrong, and then we can proceed from there. I think that one of the reasons why marriage don't work anymore in Africa is when we throw traditions away. And what I meant by that is not that you have to dress like a traditional person in the modern world. That's not what I mean. What I meant by that statement is that we have to look at ourselves as where we belong and where we come from. And if an individual separates from their clan or their tribe, clinging to somebody else, and that person decide not to take who they are now with to know where they came from, and this person does not know the roots of where you came from, that person will most likely not take you serious in relationship. Because at the end of the day, when two tribes or two individuals are coming together, there is a root that you both came from, and that root needs to be acknowledged in your union. And I think that is one of the things that actually affect marriage today, that people no more go back to their roots simply because they have, thank you very much, simply because they have a reality to say that, would I call it a reality or a perception that your roots are not good enough for you. It's just like an apple tree would not know that how its root actually started. And the beauty is just the apple that falls down. And we have become the fruits of the past generations who have gone through hardship and who have learned to go through life in the difficult way. And they have certain perception on how they treat themselves. And because of that, we ignore our roots and we just think that we are living in modern world and we can just see one another and just love one another. But there's a difference between having this emotional connection between you and a person, and there's a difference between you sacrificing for the roots of that person, not just loving the individual, but loving everything that comes with the individual. And what comes with an individual in every relationship comes from the roots. And that's why we talk about families. We talk about the mothers. For example, as a man, you want to get married to a woman, it is very important and necessary you know the family of the woman you want to spend the rest of your life with. That is the only way I think you can truly cherish the woman. You can cherish her character, you can cherish the way she cooks, you can cherish a lot of things about her, but cherishing our roots is also vital. And it is our roots that you're going to use to understand certain mistakes that are going to come up in the relationship. Perhaps she commits, maybe there's a mistake or an error. You can always say that I understand her roots. Probably she came from a cultural home and this is how they do their things. Probably in a tradition, this is the mentality they have. This is how they treat themselves over there. And now she's bringing it into our relationship. But I can understand it because I know how they act there. And it's easy for you to, let go of that little errors that the woman makes. But when you don't have that understanding about our roots, about our traditions, about our culture, it is easy for you to take just a little mistake and make it so big and cumbersome. At the end of the day, it start bringing separation between you and that individual. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it. Oh, Mina Listros. I have a wife. I'm not single. I have a wife. I'm married. I have 2 kids. Amen. Joel Chilaka. Amen. I'm married with 2 kids. In fact, I had to leave my room right now. My son left his room and he came to stay in my room. And I was like, he's not feeling fine. So he loves staying in my room whenever he's around. So back to the subject. Do you really agree with that point of view? And I've seen this happens that when these 2 roots did not come together, most likely in marriage. I've been married for 6 years. I've been dating my wife for over 9 years. And so I need to be conscious about certain moves that I make in my relationship. You see, there's this thing that goes on right now in today's world where people talk about breakup and the rest of it, and man cheats, women cheat, and the rest of it. I tell people that discipline is not enough to stop a man or an individual from cheating. Discipline and principle is not enough to stop an individual from cheating. And let us talk about what cheating really means. Some people assume that cheating means, which we all can agree, cheating simply means in marriage when you're having sexual affairs with someone else. I think cheating simply means when you're hiding something that you think that your spouse is supposed to be aware of, and you're hiding that information from them, when you know that that information is actually going to betray their trust for you. Does that definition make any sense? Does that definition make any sense? If it makes sense, or if you want me to rephrase it, let me know. I say cheating in relationship simply means that you're keeping an information from your significant other or your spouse or your partner, and doing that, you already know that that information you're keeping away from them is going to betray their trust. So it's most likely the information is because you participate in an action that you don't want them to be aware of. And that's how I see it. And so I think that this happens when you haven't really sacrificed enough to know the person. And when I say sacrificing enough to know the person, that means if you ask most men today, what is the sacrifice they've made for their woman? A lot of them can't really tell you. Some of them only attribute it to financial stuff. But if I have 50 million, or if I have 200 million, and I have to drop 5 million just for a lady, I haven't sacrificed a lot for her. It might look like a huge sum of money, but it is nothing. But if I have taken my time to know her roots, to know where she comes from, I've sacrificed doing those things, participating in certain activities, sacrificing, and she's also doing the same thing likewise. Now we both have sacrificed to know ourselves. And when you know the root of an individual and you guys are together, it is difficult for you to separate yourself from that person, because the information you have gathered in the first place before you even agree to start living together is that you're already aware of their culture and traditions and you already agree to it. But most times, when you don't agree to it or when you don't understand it, when the person begins to exhibit certain characteristics, then it begins to irritate you because you have no information about their tradition and culture in the first place. And these are the things that I believe that when people, you call yourself, these days people call themselves strong and independent, strong and independent. And when strong and independent comes together, they can't be union, because first of all, they are both independent. And let's say because of the fancy life they live, they decide to have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, and then they find themselves in a foreign land that no one is holding each other accountable. And besides, they don't know the roots of the other person. They don't know the traditions of the other person. Some people are not even aware that if their significant spouse or partner dies, there is a particular tradition that would be exhibited for the death of that person. Some people are not aware that there are certain, spiritual things that follow people. I hate sounding spiritual. I hate talking about spiritual things. But we can't ignore the fact that there are certain spiritual things that follow individuals. We might like to believe that everything we see today is just glamorous and we are just physical beings, but everyone knows that spiritually we are being connected to certain roots. And most people ignore that fact. And then when they move out of the country, it is easy because now they fall in love with the beautiful and the fancy places, and then they want to make choices. And the reality of life is, sometimes I believe most people are not matured enough when they move out of the country. And that's the reason why a lot of things can easily seduce them. They can lust after minor things. It really don't make sense in certain ways. I'm trying to, have this conversation, but I think a lot of people are probably busy today. And I should have scheduled this maybe Saturday or so. But I made a decision to just have the conversation now. And besides, if you're joining me right now, I uploaded a video about 30 minutes ago, and that video actually is talking about fraudulent lawyer, because my channel most times talk about fraudulent lawyers. And I'm not trying to deviate from what I'm talking about, but I'm just letting you understand. Fraudulent lawyer in Nigeria, and this might probably be applicable to other countries too. There are fraudulent lawyers in Nigeria. So I just posted a video and part of my experience 30 minutes ago before I came live. But while we are discussing on this, I would have loved to have heard the insight of a lot of people regarding why men and women divorce the moment they find themselves in foreign land. Those who come from traditional homes, those who stay in Lagos, those who are in Abuja, those who came from different spots and they just think that we going out of the country, we want to live our life together. Is there anything we think that is the reason behind it? I haven't gotten any response. I've given out my own hypothesis, my own reasons. Do you agree with me or not? Minale said, do you have a wife or are you single? I think I've read it before. I said I have a wife. Okay, say all right. Girlfriend. Okay. I think I've answered that. Okay, since everyone is busy, These are my own hypotheses for now. These are the things that I think are the reasons. And I have more reasons, but I would make sure maybe I gather more information and then we can share it and we can discuss more on it. I'm going to be talking about certain subjects later today. And please, you can still join me live by 5:30 p.m. today, African time. See you. Thanks. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel. And let's make this go over 1,000. Have a blessed day. Hope to see you all later today. Adios, amigos.